Hello everyone, welcome back to another lesson on IELTS academic writing. In this lesson, we are focusing on active versus passive voice. There are subtle differences and these differences makes a difference for your IELTS academic rating for task 1 and task 2, and we are going to go through what are these differences and what are the use cases for these different forms. So, generally speaking, passive voice is about the action and the active voice is about the actor. So in the active voice, essentially the subject performs the action, and in the passive voice, the action is being performed, either generally by the subject or without a subject. Is about the action. And what are the examples of this? So for the passive voice, so you can use the examples of sales figures, increased, rare increased by the company. And this by the company obviously is optional. You can just say sales figure were increased. And also in the active voice, the same sentence, it could be the company increased the sales. So as you can see in the passive voice, it's more about the action of the increase, that the sales were increased. It's more about that action. And in the active voice, it's more about the company, the actor which performed the thing that you're talking about. And this matters because in your IELTS academic grading, especially for task 1, generally speaking, you're asked to describe a graph or an action. And it's more useful to use passive voice for task 1. And in your task 2, you're asked to provide 2 points of arguments or provide your personal point of view. So that's where it's better or easier to use active voice in task 2. So this is the general distinction. And let's do a few examples to really solidify it. So essentially, you can interchange these two sentences to each other. So for example, you can say the investment was decreased in 2010. So this is the passive voice, and this is what you observed, and you don't really care why or how or who did this thing. You're just reporting on the data. Also, on the other hand, and this is more like the things that you need to describe for task 1. So this is more on task 1, the topics or kind of sentences that you need to write. Also, on the task 2 or the active voice, you can also say that, for example, the government or the company or the education ministry, let's say, the education ministry increased the investment in 2010, let's say. So this is when you want to provide, let's say, the one point of view is that the increase in the education is good and the other one is not so good. So then this is when the active voice is more useful. Also, you might be asked to describe your own point of view. So then that's very likely that you need to rate the active voice. So you, for example, you can write, I believe that something, whatever, investment in education is advantageous to the society. So you are putting the emphasis, this is again task 2, and it's active voice. So you're putting the emphasis on the actor, on yourself, essentially, that you believe this. So this is also useful, and it gives it more strong argument to your writing. So, for example, imagine that if you write investment in education is considered beneficial. It's not really as strong as saying, I believe that investment in education is advantageous. It's a lot more stronger when you put your own emphasis, or a group of people emphasis, on the examples that you're writing about in your task 2. And keep in mind, you can always interchange these. Generally, it's better to stick to one type of voice and go on with it, but you can always interchange it. So please practice these at home. Just for example, you can always, let's say, you have an active voice and you have a passive voice. You can always interchange these two sentences, these two types of sentences to each other. So, for example, the university built a new library, or you can say a new library was built by the university. So to recap, the first sentence is more about the university that did this action. So maybe you're talking about the university itself, different things that it has been done. Or in the second one, in the passive one, you're really talking about the library. So then that is where the action is being performed on the library. So maybe you're talking a new library was built by the university, and then a lot of students started using it, and so on and so forth. It makes, when it's about library, it makes it a lot more cohesive. So that's essentially the lesson for this video. Please practice. Keep in mind, it's always practice makes better. For task 1, keep in mind it's useful to write in the passive voice. It's a lot easier. In the previous lessons, for example, we talked about the increased trend or the decreased trend and all these different trends. A lot easier to use passive voice. So for example, sales figures increased, or whatever number increased or decreased or fluctuated, so that it's a lot easier to use passive voice. And for task 2, that we are going to talk more extensively, it's easier to use active voice. I believe this, or the company did that, or the government implemented such policy, and it might be good or bad, and argue. So it makes it a lot more easier to argue, because you are putting the blame essentially on the actor, and it's easier to argue. And generally in task 2, you are asked to argue. So that is the general lesson for today. Hope you liked it. See you in the next one. Cheers.